Okay. Gotta remember where I was. Oh yeah. So I just built out the melee section of this thing. So that's total damage. It's melee. Okay. So now I want to build out this next piece on weapon skills. It's like too many panes. Let's see. Get rid of that one for now. Okay. Okay, so swap out my buttons real quick. That one. No, go away. Okay. So I'm not quite sure what I want this to look like yet. I'm gonna go steal some cards from the previous one. So I'll take this one just to keep formatting. And then I kind of replicate what I did on the melee one. I might actually, yeah, I'm gonna copy the whole thing. And work backward from it. Hey Greg, how you doing? Just messing around with this thing. I figure I might as well stream it if I want to start playing with it, so. Okay. Should be doing some cool bookmarking stuff, and then hopefully finishing out this whole page. But we'll see. Let's go weapon skill. I want to do average. So I'm just gonna swap some of these things in. That's not the number I want to see. That looks right. Let's see, accuracy. I want that one. And average there. Average on count. Then critical hit rate doesn't count in this case, so what do I want to do there? I could do total weapon skill damage would be interesting to track it just over time. Be kind of cool. And then I think on this one, rather than a line, I'm gonna do some sort of bar. Drop that one and go. Test some different things out and see what I end up liking on this one actually. Let's go average damage, do accuracy as line maybe. Some of these it's like look at it and see if it actually tells the story you expect it to, and if not, then bail and try something else, and if so, then you're good to go. This one not so sure on though. We could do, I'm gonna do something like maybe total damage instead of average damage, because accuracy and that kind of go, they're kind of similar. Or the more accuracy, the more your total damage should be really, unless you did something in the build to make your character a little weaker to get more accuracy out of it, and then your damage would suffer a little bit. Let's see. I don't really like it though, honestly. I think I might end up doing multiple charts here instead of trying to include it all in one. Though it doesn't really make sense in one to combine some of these elements. So I'm gonna do. Maybe I'll do. I didn't want to do that. That's for sure. One of the hard parts with working with these groups is that they start to have their own coordinates within them. And then I just wanted to move that whole section up to get more room to play, but really I need to move the graph to be able to make it increase the size. Like I don't want to do that in this case. I want to just move it so it's a little harder to get to the individual item. So I have to move it out and then grab the corner, but the corner moved in too, which makes it kind of hard because it's still wanting to grab that side. So I don't like that. So I'm gonna have to do something silly to kind of work around it, I think, to make it easier. Which is, in this case, I'm gonna just ungroup them. I'll wait till I'm done to group them. So bring this one down like that. I don't know what I want to do here. Like I definitely need to clean up these labels, so we'll go, so I see that, so I'm gonna just take care of it now. Okay. Okay, and then can like the lowercase, but I want to be consistent, so I'm gonna go back and change this one too. And then same with the dot, just have to be consistent on the labeling. Still don't know what I want to do here. I definitely want to see damage over time, but we already show that in total damage kind of too, so it's kind of repetitive. The pieces that are new on this section would be that we didn't display on total damage would be weapon skill accuracy, which we catch there, but not really over time. It could be interesting over time as people try new things, and so maybe I'll try that. I'm gonna just duplicate this guy to start with, and then let's see. You can see as I fumble through to figure out what I want to do with this thing. Let's go weapon skill, accuracy, like that. This might be a good use for dual axis or secondary axis for a line chart. Because I could do accuracy, turn that title off for a second. If I do accuracy and maybe average damage or count would be interesting as well. Uh, it looks okay, but I don't think that's quite what I want. I think I want to do actually average damage and count together like that. I'm gonna have to do something about the axis though if I do that to denote like which one means which. Um, it might make more sense though to do this like a fancy combo. So I'm gonna get rid of this one for a second, play with this idea and see how it goes. I gotta change that green's too much. I can't handle it. That's a little better. It's like Warriors, Golden State Warriors. Okay, and then if I do, it'd be nice to bring accuracy into this picture, but I don't think there's going to be a good way to do it. I might have to do something where I toggle, like get cute with a bookmark here and toggle in accuracy separate from, and bring in a new chart essentially. Or I could do a tooltip of accuracy so you can hover and see it like that. But I kind of want accuracy to pop out a little bit because that's actually probably more valuable than count. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to swap accuracy here, bring the count to the tooltip, and I might actually go and make the tooltip a fancy one. Use the page tooltip for it so we can make it a little bit heavier and make it pretty cool. So let me go color here. So we can see accuracy and count. So this would be like an efficiency essentially. And then if you hover and get damage, average damage, I guess. Oh no, I have average damage there. What am I talking about? Hover to get count. So we have accuracy, average damage, hover to get the count to kind of see the scale of it. Or I could try to bring in some sort of overlaying chart to give you a similar feel, but I don't know if it's gonna be too confusing. I'm gonna play with this idea, see what happens. Let's see. This is probably gonna look terrible, to be honest, but actually I'm gonna take this because it already has the date in it. I'll copy paste it, get rid of my fields just to make it easier, and then convert it. Oh, I deleted almost everything, so it went away. I need a field. Let's see. Count. And I wonder if I push this thing to the back and keep my axes aligned, it could be kind of interesting. Again, it'll be kind of hard to read though, but it's more like, I don't know, it might look terrible. Let's see. Right here. Something like that. If I can cleanly label it, it might be alright. But let me go here and turn these axes off. And then we're going to have to get careful on the sizing, otherwise it's going to not line up. It's going to take some refinement to make that look and like actually work, because if I switch people, it might not necessarily line up every time unless I bring in the It's actually pretty dang close. Let's go. That person's got nothing. Limited, that doesn't count. I don't know what that tells me though, so it's a little bit confusing, which might not lend well to this. Let's I might be able to format it in a way where it will kind of make sense, and it's really just to add context. It's not anything we'd want to measure against, and I might just use it for decorative purposes. And then when you tooltip, it'll actually tell you what's going on there. Let's try that out and see if it's a good idea to run with. So I'm gonna try it stepped, because I think stepped is actually gonna look kind of cool. Maybe not. And then rather than taking the axis off, I'm gonna turn it back on. I'm gonna keep X on. I'm gonna turn off Y. And then I'm going to line these things up perfectly, or pretty close to it, to make sure those dots plot where I expect them to. Let's see. Yeah, without Y, it's gonna look funky. I'm gonna have to bring Y in and then make Y look formatting wise like it doesn't exist. Try to make it blend, which might be kind of tough with the transparent background. That's gonna be close enough. Okay. So now, let me get Pixie up and running if I haven't got it up. Stick that up there. And then I'm gonna try to blend the y-axis in with that gray background and see if it will work. It might not, but we'll get it close and see if it's bad enough to want to adjust it. That's pretty good. You can't really see it. And then if I do the same thing on X, it's actually going to blend really well because we have the black on top of it from the other one, so it should look pretty good. Boom. There we go. And we'll leave it in the back. I would love the ability to have like the shading, be able to choose if it's in front or back, because if I were to fill this area here, it's always going to be in front of the bars. It'd be nice to be able to stick it behind. I'm going to format that back one up a little bit though, because I don't want it to be so sharp. So let's see. Turn off some options. Maybe I'll go shapes and make the stroke width down to 0 and then get rid of my marker. So now we're left with kind of like that type of look, which by itself is not going to look right. I'm going to have to bring in a tooltip or something to make it more descriptive of what's going on there. Otherwise, it's going to be confusing. But it gives an idea of scale because that's the count. So we have the average damage is the blue, and the yellow is the accuracy. So essentially, the higher average and the higher accuracy should lead to a higher. Or no, that's not right. No, I got to think about this for a second, see if it still makes sense. Because at the end of the day, if the user has to think this hard, it's a fail. I'm trying to think too in the data if it gets counted, if it's an attempt that misses, so if it's related to accuracy at all, or if it's only the ones that hit. Because if it was attempts, and you took attempts and accuracy and then showed scale by damage, then it might make a lot of sense. But this, I don't know. I like the way it looks though, so I want to try to make it work, but sometimes it's not good to force it. I think if I make a good tooltip, it'll work. I'm gonna go do that. So page tooltips, if you're not familiar with them, incredible value. We have a guidance document that I helped write. Let's see, Power BI guidance. So I'll show that here. So this report page tooltips, I like to think of them in a couple ways. One of them is bringing in different perspective on the same on information, so it's not really related to what you're hovering on, but it brings in more perspective or more context to make the data point more relevant, or adding additional detail to it. Um, this guidance documentation gives some pretty good examples on how to build them out and like things to think about as you're building through them. So let me go back here. So first things first, I'm gonna go page size is tooltip, and then I like to do view, page view to actual size. Otherwise, kind of hard to work with because it's massive and in your face. You can technically modify, and I might modify. You can technically modify if you changed it to custom, but if you get too wide or you get too tall, it might run off the page because it doesn't scale with it necessarily. So we'll start with tooltip, maybe adjust from there. We're also going to go page information tooltip and turn that toggle on. And then we're going to start building this thing out. So I want to bring in more context for this graph. I definitely want to show the count, which is what we'd be hovering. If we hovered here, we'd expect to see the counts, what's going on behind the scenes there. So if I can do the tooltip right and make that context be provided when you hover, then it's going to work well. Otherwise, it's going to kind of be bad. And I'll probably rethink that background. The thing that's already kind of looking like trouble is if you hover here, nothing. But if you hover on the dot, is when, or the bar is when it shows up because it's the tooltip for that graph that's in the front. So it might not give quite what I want it to for experience, but we'll try it, see if it works. And then if I like it and I think it might work, I'll probably test it with users and see if it makes sense for them. So I'm going to call this WS Tooltip. And then I think what I'll do for color on this thing is go back to profile, maybe grab some color from the background here. Actually, yeah, I'll try that and see how it goes. So page background. Transparency 0. And I want to bring in at least the count. And I'll do that in a card. And I might actually go grab my card from the other page and bring it over to keep the formatting. Although this one's going to have a little bit different look and feel to it, so it might be okay to start from scratch. I'm going to shrink it. Get rid of the background. I'll probably... I want to bring in more context, because if we're going to go to the effort of building this tooltip out, we might as well have more context to it. Okay. But we can make these page tooltips as rich as we want them to be, so I could do silly things like maybe grab an image, and I went and grabbed some goofy stuff here, so let me go image URL, and then I can filter this thing, for example, and get some like silly graphics in here. So if I click this and then turn off my background like so, maybe stick this in the corner somewhere. I don't get to do this very often in real reports, so I like to mess around when I'm doing something that's personal. So I'm gonna go count. I want to bring in the total damage also, because we show it, but we don't necessarily show it for where we are hovering. And I should have done this up front, but I'm gonna do it now. When you're doing a tooltip like this, one of the best things you can do is filter the page to what it would be filtered on from where you kind of activate that tooltip. So in this case, it's going to be filtered on a character. It would also be filtered on a month. So I would go in here, or a date actually, not a month. So I'd go in here and I'd say, all right, let's grab character, and you build it out with that in mind, because when it's time to actually it's called player name, I think. This one's good. If you build it out with the idea in mind of what it's going to be filtered to, then it will you'll ensure that you don't build something out for a full view that doesn't make sense for the filters that are being applied to it. Like, you don't want a bunch of blanks to show up, or you want graphs that won't run off because you can't interact with it. So if you need to scroll, that's a problem. Let's see, I'll just pick my guy, which is right here. So that's for the whole page, and then I'll actually grab the date also and just pick a date. We'll do this one. Now if we build with these filters applied to the page, and then go remove those filters at the end of the day, it'll get us that effect, and uh, make sure that we built it with the filters in mind, so we don't add stuff that doesn't make sense. So I definitely want these two. I'm wondering if I can bring something visual into this. So let me go back here and see what might make sense. So we definitely want count. We want total damage. What else do I have on that front? Let's see. We don't have a lot to work with, really, honestly. But we could bring in, since you can't get the tooltip for accuracy and average damage, we could bring those two in as well. Might be a good way to do it. And then when you hover, rather than getting this, you'd get the other thing. Oh, actually, this is going to be good. I want to bring in the event as well. So we might get a little out of hand here with the count. So I definitely want my accuracy to be displayed. I definitely want my count. I'm gonna totally reposition these after the fact, I think. We want the average damage as well. So it's kind of like restating what's already visualized in the graph, but with the numbers, since we are going to be removing that default tooltip. And then I want to bring in the event name itself. So I think what I'm going to do in this case, because the card is fine usually, but it's always going to be centered. You can't say left justify a card. So a lot of times I'll use buttons for text, or for in place of cards, and it should work. I believe it should work in this case. I might have to get a little fancy with the formatting, but let me go insert button blank, and then on button text, I'm gonna have to tie this to a field. And I believe we'll try it and see what happens. Event. Oh, that might actually work just fine. So if I do it's going to build the measure, essentially. It's going to bring in the first field, but since we're filtered to an individual one, it's going to bring in the name of it. But what's cool here is we can now left justify it where we couldn't on a card. And then you can also do things like, in this case we don't need to because we're not going to be interacting here, but on hover have it be something else, which is kind of cool. So I'm going to increase the size on that. Okay, and then we'll probably add a little bit of color to this page. I might do like a little quad box. Something like that. But I kind of want to add some shapes to this thing to give it a little bit more flair. So let me move this guy out of the way for a little bit. And then I'm going to actually want to put this in the right corner, I think. And then I'm going to expand it because I don't want anything to wrap. In this case, we want to make sure we allow enough room for it to fill. And I think the longest one is probably 5 or 6 characters longer than that in this case. And then maybe we'll put him back up in this corner. Shrink him down a little bit. Wait, did he have feet before? Then I took them off. I did. So I got too small. I took his feet off. I wonder if there's any options here for scaling. Let's see. Nope. Alright, we'll put him there. That's alright. I'll just have to figure out how to position these things and make it work how I want it to. It'd be good if we had 5. Maybe we'll do this. I'm gonna duplicate that and maybe put the date here and then do my 4 box here, 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 and here. Just to fill in the space, and then I might add some color to the background as well. Let's see, text. Change this one to date. And I don't know what it might not even let me pick date, honestly. It doesn't like date. Damn it. Alright, we'll find something else to do here. Sometimes it's, like in this case in particular, when I was just adding it for more decorative purposes, sometimes it was more difficult than it's worth as far as like going and creating a new measure that grabs the date and then feeds it back into there. It's not hard necessarily. In this case, we could probably do it really easily, but I think I'd rather not mess with it right now. I'm gonna clean up a little bit. But I do like the idea of like 4 boxing down here, or maybe even I'll shrink this thing and do something like this. And then rather than sticking to the default page size there, I'll go custom and bring down the width to like 300, maybe a little less. 270, sure, why not? And then I'll make the height a little more to play more down below. 280. And then we can put these guys here. And then I'll go add some type of shapes to make it kind of pronounced a little bit. Or maybe even like shadow on them, which gives them the same effect as adding a background essentially. But if we're going to do that, we need to make sure we're very precise on the sizing. Let's try it. Let's see here. Okay, let's see. I haven't really played with the drop shadows too much, so this is kind of cool. It's funny how it's very simple, but it gives us that ability. Like in this card, I would never go make like a custom background for one of these little flyouts. It's just too much work for a weird aspect. But here we're able to like make it pop a little bit, and maybe if I add a little bit of background to this thing as well, and give it like a slightly lighter gray, or maybe a slightly darker gray, make it pop out a little bit even more. I'm not a huge fan so far, but let's see. No, I don't like darker necessarily. What about something crazy? I'm gonna play with this. It might work. And actually, I see these are missized, so I gotta fix that before it drives me crazy. So we'll go general 112.75. See what this one's at. 112.81. So this one's probably 75 amp, but it's not as wide. And then we can do the 2 and do format, align, middle. These two, or actually this one and this one, format, align, middle, or center. this one, format, align, center. And I think if I place these things a little bit better, maybe increase the size on this text. And really, I need to go look at it and see what it's going to look like when I hover to make sure it looks good. Otherwise, it's kind of wasted effort. Add some color. Maybe not that. And actually, I'm going to give this a little bit of like background as well. So I'm going to shrink this, give it a fill to just to make the header kind of stand out a little bit. And this is kind of following the same setup we had for our flyout here. If you see that, and actually I like this idea, so I'm gonna steal this color for my background, and I'll just give it that kind of like labeling, like it's the flyout. I think that's gonna work kind of be cool. Whoop. There we go. And now I can maybe lighten these up and give them the color we used. Let's see. I think I want to do the color I used for this piece here. There we go. So fill. And on these guys, I will do the background with that color. Actually, I'm gonna change the fonts up a little bit, or font color at least. I don't know what yet. I can make this a little bigger because we got some room to play. And then I'll apply that to all of them. I don't know if I'm gonna like it or not, but I'll apply it to all and then go from there. Not too bad. This is kind of missing something here. Maybe it's the shadow on these makes this one kind of look like it's flat. I'm gonna try shadowing it. There we go. That's not too bad. And then I want to do a little bit more margin here because I want to try to make this margin between these two pretty close to these two. It doesn't have to be super precise. As long as it visually feels right, it should be alright. Like that. And then I'm going to shrink this button a little bit because he's a little overlapping with that one. Okay. I like it, I think. So let me go back to my profile. And then I'll assign that tooltip to this graph. So tooltip, report page, and then weapon skill tooltip. So now we hover. It's blank because I have those filters applied still, but that's what it'll look like when it hovers, and I kind of like that. So if I go back over here and pretend this is done, I'll probably revisit it a little bit, but if it's done, we go erase, erase, and now when we come back to our player profile, when we give it the hover, it'll pop those items up, including the little waving guy, which is pretty funny. Cool, I like it. So then let me think about this as a user. So this is the guy. I can hover on this day and see this is the event it was. Average was 22,000. Total was 6 million. 267 was the count, 96% accuracy, and then we can compare it to like the previous one where total was similar. The count was lower, but maybe I need to add a decimal because it feels like it's not precise enough to really give value. Let's see. So I'm going to go to my settings here and add. I just want to do maybe 2. I think in most cases 2 is going to be good. Total damage, maybe 2. It might be too much, but we'll check. This one is fine as a pure number, I think. Okay, back to here. We'll give it another check. Okay, this is better. The numbers seem a little strange though. Let me think. 5.84, 5.59, 5.78. Yeah, okay. That makes sense. 3.47, that was a bad one. I think I need date, honestly, because you can't, the axis is uncontinuous, which is good when you get beyond a certain amount of dates. But I don't know which run it was. Like if I go between this one and this one, which were the same place, I mean we know that the one was before the other, but having the date on there might be valuable. Also gonna try to move this a little bit to make it as tight as possible on the bottom. Okay. I'll try this on another player just to see what it's like. So here we can see we did the same area on both of these days, so it should be comparable. Let's see, 100% accuracy, 351 count, 338 count, but more damage on average and total. So whatever the build was for this week was stronger than the build for that week, or it performed better than the build this week. The count is a little bit hard because there's a lot of variables, but still valuable. And then we can also cross filter and see over here. And I think what I'm going to do cross filter wise on this guy is I'm going to change my interactions. So I don't want this cross filter to hit this table, which in this case are blank, but in some of the cases they're not. I don't want it to hit up here necessarily. I want it to hit up here, but I want it to filter it rather than highlighting. And I don't want it to hit the filter or the visual behind. I don't think so. I'm going to move this slightly for now. Go format, edit interactions. And I'm going to say, you turn off, you go filter instead of highlight. Turn that one off, turn that one off. And that's really all I want to do there. So now if I move this back into place, if I can get it lined up how I want to, which I might need to turn the axis back on to get it exactly how I want to. It's probably like, yeah, I'm going to have to color it. Turn X back on and to black real quick, just to get them lined up again. It's a little off. I'm not sure why. Let me think here. Here, let me hide this one real quick. And then I'm gonna go Y back to black for a second. Okay, bring this one back and try to see what's going on here. The layering can get funny. I usually wouldn't recommend it, honestly, for anything production. But we're just having fun with this one. There we go. Perfect. So change that back to blending in. Hopefully won't have to touch it again. And done. So now income hover, get more detail. Okay. I think I like it. Awesome. So I'm going to save this. So I'm going to call that section good for now. It's going to probably get adjusted, but I want to get feedback before I take it that far. So now I need to group all of these objects. So grab those. I'm going to put them all together too. Let's put them up here. Just move them on up to the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Group. Call this my WS and hide it. Now we can move on to the next one. So let's go hide that one, bring that one back, hide selected or unhide the selected ranged, hide the button. Button doesn't blend well. I'm gonna have to figure something out on that front. I kind of thought this would be trouble. It's not terrible, but it's not ideal. I think on the, let me look at this other one. I thought I played with transparency a little bit, but it looks like I didn't. Let's try, if I give it enough transparency to let it kind of shine through. It's not great though. Hmm. I don't like the way I can see that rounded off piece at the end on the side. It's bothering me. So how do I make it blend? I think first off I need to color it identical to this color that I am here. I think that's going to help a lot. But it's got to have the transparency as well, otherwise it's not going to show anything through and it's going to look obvious that it's not. And it was the same color, so maybe if I go like right there, because it's slightly different. Don't like it. Shoot. You're very right, James. But that's what separates the really well built stuff from the messes. So it's worth the effort if you have the willingness. There. I don't know. I'm gonna find an alternate solution for this because I don't like it, to be honest. I might actually rework a lot of stuff because of this. It's like it's really standing out. But I'm gonna keep building. I'm gonna build the view and then I'll work back to it at some point, hopefully. We want melee unselected to pop. There we go. Okay. I'll just build the view, and I'm gonna actually steal again this melee view because it's gonna be very close to what we get for ranged. Because ranged is essentially the same thing. It's just rather than swinging with hand, it's shooting with a bow or whatever. So I should have pretty much the same stats. They're just captured separately. So let's go average damage / hit. So we want ranged average damage. Like that, and I'm going to pick a ranged person so it makes more sense. Alright. And then we got hits. I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier on the other one. I'm going to ungroup them, at least temporarily, and I'll regroup them when I'm done, but it's easier to work with them if they're ungrouped as far as positioning is concerned. We want average melee hit. Actually, not melee. We want average ranged count. Meaning like how many times did you shoot? And I gotta make sure I change that to average. Accuracy would be ranged hit rate average. Like that. And then the last one here would be critical hit rate, so ranged crit rate. And average. That's not right. Something's funny on that one. I have to go pull up the database to see what's going on there, because the average shouldn't be more than 1. Hit rate, crit rate. What's going on in my data? I'll pick somebody else and see if it's like maybe broken record or something like that. I know in the smart sheet is the smart sheet's the back or the underlying source in this case, and it could have misentered information at this point. We tried to automate pulling the data and it was really complicated, so we defaulted back to manually doing some of this until we can get it something automated going. Who do I want? I want TPO. There we go. Okay, that's better. So that makes me want to go look at the smart sheet itself. So I'm going to do that just to see if something's wacky. So something funky going on over here on ranged crit rate, and I bet if I filter it greater than 100 or 1. Yep. So this should be 15.6%, 12%, whoop, not $12, 14%. What was that? Let me back up. 15, 6, 12, 12%, 14%. Okay, that'll be better. Take my filter off here. I hope that doesn't delete anything. There we go. Save it. Come back over here and refresh just so I can see that came across correctly. So that was on Bova. There we go. That's better. Okay. So let's see. So now I need to do my titles again. So we want ranged average damage, range. Let's try and see if that fits. That doesn't fit, so I'm gonna modify. Go ATT, and then I'm gonna go. This one is ranged accuracy, and ranged crit rate. Okay, and then over here, we're just gonna swap out. We had melee hit rate and melee crit rate. We're gonna swap it for ranged. So ranged hit rate, ranged crit rate, like that. And I don't like that green, so I'm gonna modify it. Something like that. I'm not gonna get fancy with any special like page tooltips or anything on this one. I'm honestly probably gonna call it on this one and call it good. So I'm gonna say title on this is ranged, because I want to get through these next couple. Ranged, if I can spell. Oh my gosh. Ranged accuracy and critical hit rate. That's good. I'm gonna come back and probably revisit some of the formatting. I wanna maybe add labels to some of these, make it a little easier to read. I always turn off, if you forget to turn off editing interactions, so if I have edit interactions selected and I click something, it takes a lot longer to be able to work with it, especially when you get like a matrix or a lot of heavy visuals on the page. So if you're not using it, it's always best to go up to format and turn it back off when you're done with it. Okay, I'm gonna add some labels. Labels. Where are you? Maybe color them. I don't know if I will keep them or not, but and then I'll do above. That works. Okay, fair enough. I'm gonna group these guys, and then call that one ranged, like that. And now I need to move on. Job abilities is kind of blank right now, so that's kind of a placeholder, so I'm not going to activate it yet. Tank has some valid information. It's very limited though, so I'm going to go build that one out. I'll skip these two for now, just because it's very limited data and not very interesting at this point. So I'm going to hide my ranged, bring in the tank. I hate that button. I'm going to really have to do something about that. That looks terrible. Doesn't work like that either. The whole idea of like making it look like a tab really fails when there's transparency with an image underneath it. I didn't even think about it when I was starting to do it. I could go back to the background and just take away the transparency on this piece, and you'd still get it on some of the other pieces. I'm gonna look and see what it looks like. So if I were to go here and say, let's see, I want my settings, format shape. I'd have to darken it though, so I'd have to go like take my color from here, like that. Oops. It's not too bad. It would probably give the visuals more focus too. It would definitely make the tab thing look cleaner. And we can still kind of see that thing through on the other pieces, so it's not terrible. I wonder if we put some transparency on those. Oops. I'm gonna try this. Let's see how it goes. Let's see, we're gonna call this profile BGV2. And this is really like how I'd normally do things, is like if I find that an idea that I had early on just isn't going to work to meet a design element that I really want to include, I'll totally come back and revisit the background and try something new. See, now we get the tab effect that I wanted. And if we go back to like the views, it actually is much easier to read because it doesn't have that transparency. But then the question becomes, is this part up here distracting? Or is it harder to read? Maybe. And then I need to think, do I really need it included on all of them? Maybe I don't. Maybe I only want to include it on this one, and then I can take that watermark piece off of the other pages. You lose a little bit of consistency, but it might be worth entertaining. I have to make a decision on this thing. I definitely like it darker down here. Or not darker, but I like it solid. Because it makes these visuals show up a little bit better. Maybe if I solid this bar here, but then these parts might look confusing too. I'm gonna play a couple ideas. I'm gonna first off try, let's see. I'm gonna try going back to my background, and first I'll try solid here, like that. Whoops, sorry. And then I have to decide, does that even make sense? It's not terrible, I don't think. Excuse me. We'll try it, see how it goes. Save over V2 because I know I don't like V2. Page background, get rid of that one. Bring in the new one. I don't know, it's kind of just distraction. Let me change character. I think I might just drop it. Yeah, we'll try dropping it and see how that goes. This is gonna end up being a lot better probably. Whoa. Something's funky here at the image. Why is it doing? Weird. It's got like a grainy look to it. I don't even know if that's real. I'm gonna try my other monitor. It's there, I don't know why. Huh, okay. Whoops. Okay, let me go back to here and see what's going on there. It doesn't make any sense that it'd be grainy with I hate when it does that. I don't know why deleting that would have made it like grainy down here. I'll try it again, just see what happens. Maybe it was a bad save for some reason, or hopefully it'll resolve itself. No. Interesting. That's the weirdest thing ever. Never seen that. Maybe I'm being too picky. Huh, okay. Well, let's go back to PowerPoint. I just want to transition it back and then try saving it again, just see if it does the same thing, because it's confusing. It's fine now. Weird. Okay. Well, I wonder if instead of deleting it underneath, if I put it in the back. I don't have an explanation for it, but we'll give it a try and see what happens. Yeah, I don't know. That was weird. So I deleted the image and it made it like super grainy. This is still a little bit. Huh. Let me try changing the scale. That even made it worse. It's so weird. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. I'll revisit that if it continues to be a problem, but it's really strange. Okay. So now I need to build out this tank section. So I want to hide ranged. I want to pick a tank first off. So that would be like the players that kind of go front line and take the most damage. Okay, and then we want to build in some sort of visual for them. So there's a couple of metrics that matter. One of them is hit count, one of them is average damage. Um, so I'm gonna steal some cards again. Actually, I'll steal the whole thing. That's fine. Copy that, hide it, paste it, ungroup it, and then we gotta start modifying these things. So I'm gonna go with we want hit rate wherever hit rate is, or hit count, and we want our average damage also. So hit average damage might be a secondary. It might be combo would make more sense here. Let's swap them out. I don't like that. I like count on the column. And maybe if the line were on a different axis. Let's see. Show secondary. And then I want to align my zeros. I still don't like it though. It's not doing what I want it to do. So I probably won't even use that. I'll swap it out and see. Because in this case, the higher count is better and the lower damage is better. So you want them to be almost diverging as you progress. Like you'd see here, like this one would have been a kind of rough run because he took less hits for more damage, so it didn't hold hate. But as you can see, the most recent one would have been a really good one as far as that job or position is concerned. This might actually work. I wonder if I could add something like, I don't know what I'm gonna add. We'll see. Nope, don't like that. What do I want to do? I'll come back to that. So I'm gonna swap out some cards here real quick, and then I'll revisit that idea. So we want hit count on average. We want average hit damage on average again. And then I'm gonna actually do, this is gonna be just a silly metric to show how much damage in total. So do new measure, and I want to do the average damage times the count. Actually, no, that's not going to work how I want it to. What do we want? Let me check what I did for melee total. Yeah, maybe that is it. Yeah, I'll just copy that. And we'll say new measure. Call this hit total damage, and then we'll say hit here. Hit count. And then we'll drag that into here. So that's saying this person took 9 million of damage over the duration, or since we started tracking. It's kind of interesting. Seems like a big number though, so I'd have to check and make sure that's how, or make sure that's what we expect it to be. 653, 3,000, yeah, that makes sense. 801 on average, or 80 hit 801 times per 41 on average. That doesn't make sense so much. Maybe it does though, because then you'd multiply it by how many events there's been. Yeah, I'll validate that later. Okay, and then we want block rate. He's gonna have blank, but some people, like this person, should have a number in there. It should be a percentage, so that's an interesting one I'm gonna have to look at. So block rate here. I gotta make it average. Boom. And then I need to convert that one to a percentage. I go 1. Okay, now I'm gonna redo my labels. So average hits taken, total damage taken, damage per hit, say AJ, and then block rate. Okay, so save that. I think this will work. I need to do some labeling, and then I need to decide if I want to get any heavier visually. And it's a little boring, honestly. As you flip through the pages, they're kind of the same. But that's also good for consistency. So let's change this color up. Maybe I'll make it kind of vary by changing color on these different categories or something. I'm gonna change my title. We'll say hits taken and damage, something like that. Okay. And honestly, I don't need the y-axis here because I already display the labels. So it's just getting in the way and causing more trouble than good. So I'm going to turn the y off and the secondary y off and rely completely on the labels to do the job, which I kind of like in this case. Save it again just to make sure I don't mess it up. And then I'm going to go group these guys, and I'll probably revisit it, but I just don't know yet. So go right click group, call it tank, and then I'm going to build my bookmarks after this and bring in the navigational component, and that'll probably be it for today. But now if I go hide tank, bring in ranged, looks like that. For him, he doesn't have anything, so that's not fair. Let's grab somebody that does. I could probably put in some type of smart text of some sort that says like no ranged available, something like that. Maybe I'll revisit that for next time. Okay. So let's go. Ugh, the colors are nasty. I'm gonna have to play with some coloring too. Like make it cycle through or something like that. Or do like different shades without taking it back to default, because I definitely don't want it to return to the traditional uh, Power BI theme from years ago. I don't know how it did that in the first place. Okay, so hide ranged. I'm just gonna check through and make sure I have these how I want them. So this is that's a rough graph, honestly. There's a lot going on there. And I think I need to go apply my formatting I had with the drop shadow to these two just for consistency. So I'm going to drop shadow there and shadow there like that. Put them a little closer together. Oops, move the whole thing by accident. Okay. And then, let me see. I don't know, maybe I'll add a shadow to this one too. Just see what it looks like. If I shrink it, whoop, I cross-filtered. If I shrink it, it might actually look alright. The important part is to make sure the margins are good here, which might get a little challenging if I'm not careful. I want to make sure it's centered well with these two. I don't really like the shadow. I feel like it cuts too close on the right side. So I'm going to drop it. And I definitely don't like the coloring here. I don't want that green to be like a focal point. So rather than having that one green, I'll probably swap it out and change it for like that one. Let's go color. That's aggressive. Let's go blue. Let's go yellow on that one. Or actually, we'll go red on that one. JA's rare, so I'll probably give it like a gray. I don't know. I don't like it. I'll do purple. That's fine. And then crit needs to change to something else. What do I want? Could do white because we have a gray background. Let's try somebody who has some and see what it looks like. Yeah, I don't like it. Maybe crit's the green. Yeah, that's fine. The labels are a little heavy here, so I'm gonna have to figure out if I want to keep those or try something else. I'm thinking tooltip instead of label. Or maybe we can go by series and decide what to do labels on if it lets me on this one. I don't remember anymore. Or just do less density, get rid of the background, change the, or customize series. This is what I want to see. So I want to do total damage label for sure. Weapon still total damage. I want that one for sure. The ones I don't necessarily want would be like spell, JA, ranged. You know what? I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna leave it on total. So I'm gonna turn it off on all the rest of them. With the idea that if you can't display them all, then displaying some of them is kind of hard. And if it gets really thin and it doesn't display, that's not a good thing. Where's my, there we go. Okay. And then I'm going to turn up my label density and see if I can get it to show all of them. There we go. Position. I don't think this is going to affect anything. No, because it's the line that we care about here. Let's see, total damage, we'll do above. But it doesn't want to, like, it's kind of tight there. Maybe if I do below, it'd be a little better. I don't know. No, don't like it. Auto. I want that one under there. Yeah, it's okay. This'll work. Okay. Fair enough. Hide that one. Revisit melee. See what I want to do there. I know I want to add labels for sure on this one, because those are proving valuable on the other one. So let's go add data labels. And then we wanted to do above. So it's consistent. I hate the way it does that though. I'd rather have it give me more axis and some space. I might actually go do that if I go y-axis, because this case it's always going to be stagnant 100%. If I just make it go up, it's going to look a little funky, but if we bring in labels, we don't need the axis to show anymore. So if I say 1.1, just to buy some space up top so it's not so crammed, and then I can turn off the y like that. Okay, I like that. And I like having the quad box situation there. And then I'm going to get a little bit more detailed in the title. Say melee. Okay, so we'll hide that one. Double check on weapon skill. We just did this one. This was the complicated one. I'm going to definitely need to provide some type of tip that, like, if you hover, you get more information. So I can go do that on my title here as an option. Give it a little bit more room to play because we have room to work with. And the gray thing might actually cause more trouble than good. I'll probably end up getting rid of it. It's just an idea for overlaying, or having a creative way to add a decorative element that doesn't necessarily drive any value. Title needs to be weapon skill. I'll go with that. I wish this tooltip popped a little bit quicker. That worked though. Okay. And then we'll go to range. Actually, no, hold on. I'm gonna give this a few labels because we started applying labels on the other ones. I want to be kind of consistent with if you show some labels, show consistently. Let's see. And again, if we can show labels, we don't have to necessarily have that y-axis if it's not really useful anymore. But in this case, it might be a little hard to show them all. So I'm gonna do. Let's try inside end, or inside base, and let's see. For the accuracy, I'm gonna try above, and then I'm gonna do on damage. I'm gonna get rid of the background and do it in white, maybe. And then for my percent one, I think I'm gonna do something a little different. Maybe show background and use the yellow as the background and give it white text. Just see what it looks like. It's not too bad. I don't know if it'll show up well, so I'm gonna try actually black text instead of white. Because I know yellow and white contrast has some issues. Oh, whoops, wrong one. Data labels. We want to go to customize series again. Accuracy. Let's try black and see how it shows up. That's better. Okay. I can work with that. I'm curious. Okay. Weapon skill, accuracy. Okay, perfect. That'll work. Save it. Okay, I'm gonna hide that one. Go back to range, see if I'm happy with it still. So pick a character that makes sense for it. This one should have something. He's got a bunch of jobs. I'm gonna have to revisit that whole structure there. To make sure I like this. This label needs a little bit of an adjustment. It's average. Average. Let's go AVG. There we go. Okay, and the idea here would be a character like this that has many jobs. If they wanted to see only like Ranger, for example, they can click here and cross filter down. Or if they clicked like this one, it should blank out. Yep. Thief, blank out, and so on. On some of these metrics, they'd have multiple jobs. So if I went back to, for example, melee, and if he wants to see his warrior, you can see it like that. If he wants to see his monk, you can see it like that. So toggling through them like that, or using the actual graph to do it. I'm gonna need to play with these labels because they're not showing up well. I might even just take them off. Honestly, it's not really about the labels. It's more about giving not only that a visual way to filter, but just a high like zoom out and see just as a whole, like without even knowing the number, just an idea of um, what they're playing on. So let me go turn the label off. Yeah, that'll work. It does what I want it to do at least. You can click through them, and most people have one or two, but okay. So now, last one was tank. I'll go pick a tank just to validate it's exactly what I want, and then I'm going to go build my bookmarks to navigate across the pieces, which is probably the most interesting part of this stream today. So let's go with the U. Okay. Fair enough. We'll probably revisit a little bit, but this will work for at least getting something off the ground. So now, I'm going to go back to my default view, so total damage. And it doesn't matter who I'm filtered on in this case, because we're going to do selected visuals for bookmarking. But I'm going to pick Kariri because she has a cool picture, so it looks a lot cooler. So now I want my button to be on total damage, so I'm going to turn that one on, go down to my tank button, swap them out. And now I can go grab from here and then hold shift and go through the end of my buttons like that. And actually, before I do that, let's just make sure these are all independent and what I want them to be. Yep, that'll work. Okay, so I go make sure I get the groups and the buttons, right click, or shift click, sorry. Open up my bookmarks pane and say I want a new bookmark. I'm going to call this one, I'm going to do selected visuals first off. Turn off data because you don't want any of their filtering preserved. In this case, there is no filters within the group, so it's okay. And then I'm going to rename this one to total damage. And then I'll just simply hide that one, shift to the next one, and then on my total, I'd hide the selected one, unhide the unselected, and then switch on the melee. So now it's perfectly set up, and we can click the top, shift click the bottom, add a new one, and repeat. So you can see how when we work with these in groups, it's really straightforward to update or to add and to modify as well. Because if I changed out the view here, all I had to do is slide it into the group. I wouldn't have to go remake the bookmark. So it's really helpful on that front. Now we'll swap out again. So go melee, hide the or weapon skill, hide the melee. Go to button, hide, unhide, and so on. Shift click, add, selected visuals, data, rename, just call it WS. And then we will go to the next one, ranged. We'll go swap our buttons again. So swap, 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 click, shift down to there, add selected visuals, turn off the data. It's the same thing over and over and over. Ranged. And then we are going to jump over to our tank because we didn't do these two. So I'm going to go unhide that one. Oops. Hide the ranged one. Go to my range select and hide that one. Unhide the unselected one. Come down to tank and swap those ones out. And I unhid too much, so make sure I'm on what I want. So in this case, she only has one spot with tank. I'll shift and click to the bottom, add a new one, selected visuals, uncheck the data, rename to tank. Okay, so the bookmarking's done. With the exception of job ability and spells, which is going to get added down the road if at all. So now, if I were to click my bookmark over here for total damage, you can see as we click through them how they swap. So it's working exactly as I'd expect it to. And now all we need to do is assign these buttons to those bookmarks. So if I go melee, for example, turn the action on in the button settings, go bookmark to melee, and then have the tooltip read something that's not just generic. So I'll say click for melee. Now when we click it, you can see the action. And then since we were on the selected total damage, now we have the unselected one, so I can go assign that bookmark to it. Bookmark, total damage, click for total damage. So we can show that works. Yep. Weapon skill, action, bookmark, WS, click for weapon skill. And I'll just assign these before I click through them. So bookmark, this one's ranged, click for ranged. And then these two I'll leave alone. I'll just put no action on them so they can't be clicked. Action on this one is tank. Click for tank. Okay, so now we should be able to test it out. You can hop around and freely work your way through the content. Looks like there's a little bit of alignment. So like range, for example, needs to come down and match up with weapon skill here. So we'll do, and actually it gets a little bit hard to format in this case when we have buttons associated with bookmarks. So if I try to hold control and click like multiple, then it's going to want to activate the bookmark. So we have to do it over on the selection pane if we want to do multiple. So in this case, I think I only need to move one down, but we'll see. 330. We definitely want the same Y position across the board. And it looks like it's actually weapon skill is slightly off. This one should be, we'll just do 328 for all of them, see how it goes. Okay, now they're all even. Make sure the effect still looks right. it should look like it hops down, which it does, which is what I wanted, to give it like a perspective of being a tab up in front. Okay, I like it. I'm gonna hit save. The last thing I'm gonna bring in tonight is on day one we brought in this this idea of having navigation, and we don't have it on our new page yet, so I want to bring that over and show you how easy that is. First, I'm gonna pop it out, and I decided I was gonna add something a little funny to this one. So I'm gonna go add this piece because I was looking for kind of fun elements to bring in. So I'm gonna grab my URL, and then I'm gonna bring in this little baby chocobo. So I'll just filter this to the chocobo like that, just to give it something a little funny and special. Again, because they get to work with numbers and financy stuff all the time, so I don't get to do anything fun like this in my day-to-day. So I'll drag that over to my menu, shrink it down a little bit so it doesn't look too crazy. And then I mentioned the other day how by having these groups and having the bookmarks um, actually hiding the individual group rather than the items within the group, to get this to show and hide with the group, all we need to do is expand and bring in our our image into the group. So now when we click here, it'll hide it without having to update the bookmark. So we can pop it out like that. And then they can come in here and navigate. So we didn't do event stats yet. That'll come up at a later time. Didn't do resources yet, but we did just build this player analysis piece. And we ended up calling it player profile. So I'm going to rename it slightly like that. And I see on hover it's already changing, so I got to go change that. And then I'm going to assign it, rather than a bookmark, I'm going to give it the action of page navigation to my player profile. So then when you come in here, you should be able to click and make it to here. Now, honestly, the page navigation is a cheap way out, and I'll show you why in a second, and I'll actually end up making a bookmark to make this work how I want it to. Because I definitely don't want to have the navigation here where I click to go back to that event planner page to come back to it and have this menu open. I want that menu closed when I make it back over that way. So that's, I didn't think about it as I was going and adding that, but essentially I'm going to need a bookmark to be able to do that rather than using page navigation, just because we got a little fancy with the fly out. So let me do this. I want to bring this over to the next page. So I'm going to click it and copy the whole group. And then I'm going to come over to my player profile and paste the whole group. And it'll preserve positioning, which is great. It's on top, which is great. And now we only need to bookmark it for this page. So I'm going to go view, bookmark. I have it selected. Add bookmark, selected visual, data off. Rename it to nav flyout. I want to distinguish it a little bit. Nav flyout player profile. And then we'll hide it. Add selected visual with it selected, with hidden and selected. Nav flyout. Or actually, we'll go nav close. We'll be consistent with the other one. Player profile. So now we should be able to pop it in, pop it out. So we still need to bring over another component, and then we have a couple of little things to do here. So we want to come over to Event Planner first, and we want to grab this button with the same formatting. So we'll do that. Just paste it. It'll retain its positioning, but it also kept its bookmark. So we got to make sure we switch its bookmark over to the one for this page specifically. So we did that. Now we can pop it out. And now we want to close this thing, which is what this big empty button does. So I'm going to give it the action to make sure it closes here because we don't want to navigate back to the other one. So like that. So pop it in, pop it out, pop it in. And then we're going to want to actually take the formatting from this button, move it down to this one, and take the formatting from any of the unselected ones back to Event Planner. So let me go home, Format Painter to there. And I'll click this one, Format Paint it back up to here. And then if I assign the button here to go back to Event Planner, this is where the page nav wouldn't work because we don't want to. I'll show you how it would work actually if we do that. We don't want it to do this. Let's see, page navigation. I unchecked it too quick. Event Planner. So we don't want this experience. So we're here, we pop it in, we navigate here. We don't want that. We don't want this to stay open. We want it to be closed when we go back and forth. So in order to get around that, we don't use the page navigation. We build a bookmark instead. And the bookmark is pretty straightforward. It's essentially close everything, get it exactly to the status you want it, and then we can do a new bookmark, and we can say turn off data because we don't want to impact any filtering if we have any, and leave current page on. All visuals in this case is fine because we've built out what we want it to be, and we want it to return to the state when they navigate back. If we wanted to get real heavy with it, we could probably let it preserve which status you left up on here, but in this case it's not necessary. So I got that one built, and now I'm going to come to player profile. I'm going to close this thing. I'm going to do the same thing. So new bookmark, and I'll rename these guys too. But turn off data, leave display, leave current page. So I'll call this one player profile nav. And I'll call this one my event planner nav. So if we go event planner nav looks like that, player profile nav looks like that. If I pop this open and then hit that player profile nav again, it's going to close it because it's going to go to the state it was when we took that player profile nav bookmark. But it's ignoring this filter, so it's not going to return to Kariri there. It's not going to do anything at this point when we click it. And we can navigate away, navigate back, and it'll stay where we were. So now I'll go to my bookmark here, player profile, assign it to the bookmark rather than page navigation of player profile nav, like that. And then we'll do the same thing in reverse. So assign the event planner to the action of bookmark event planner nav. And we'll probably want to give it a little bit of a tooltip or better tooltip. So click for event planner, because I really don't like the click to follow link. Doesn't make a lot of sense in most cases. Player profile, do the same thing here. And then I'm going to close that, save it, and call it a night. So thank you for watching. I know that was kind of a while and we were running around all over the place, so hopefully you got some value out of it. And we'll pick this up hopefully maybe next week, but we'll see. So thank you and take care.